She was the daughter of the people. That was the story. Born poor in a dust-blown town on the Pampas, raised in a one-room house, lifted by sheer will into the palace of a nation, the woman the world calls Evita has been printed into more than 400 biographies, and almost every one of them begins at the same place. A village called Los Toldos. A wooden cradle. A surname, Duarte, taken from a father who did not stay. But there is a baptismal certificate recorded in Jun in the year 1919, and on it the child is not named Duarte at all. She is named Eva Mara Ibarguren. And the father whose surname the world now repeats, Juan Duarte, was, on his own birth record, the son of a man called French Duarte. That single line on a parish register opens a door her own government tried to close in 1945. Hold the name Duarte, we will return to it. Stay with this, the record is worth the time. Before the documents, the accepted story. She was born on the 7th of May, 1919, in Los Toldos, a small farming town roughly 300 kilometers west of Buenos Aires. Her father, a rancher named Juan Duarte, was married to another woman in the nearby city of Chivilcoy. Her mother, Juana Ibarguren, was his long-standing partner outside that marriage. The 5 children he fathered with Juana lived in a country that, in the early 20th century, classified them with a Spanish word that carries a weight no translation softens: ilegítima. When Juan Duarte died in 1926, his legal family refused the Ibarguren children entry to his funeral. The story is documented. It is repeated in every serious biography. It is true. This is the official narrative. A poor, illegitimate girl from the provinces became the most powerful woman in South America. We need no other story to feel the weight of it. And yet, in the 1940s, after she married Juan Perón, her original birth certificate disappeared from the civil registry in Los Toldos. A replacement was filed in Jun. The names on it had been adjusted. The dates had been smoothed. Argentine historians, including the late Tom Eloy Martinez, documented the alteration in detail. The question is not whether it happened. The question is what was being hidden. Eva Perón did not erase her poverty. She built monuments to it. So what, exactly, did the original document say? The answer begins in a place she never visited. In the late 1990s, a French genealogist named Joseph Duarte was tracing the migration of 19th century Basque families out of the Pyrenees, not looking for Eva Perón. Not looking for politics, looking only for the descendants of a small Basque commune in the French department of Pyrenees Atlantiques. He was working from parish records that predated the Argentine state itself. What he found was a family that crossed the Atlantic in the 1850s. A man named French Duarte, born about 1817 on the French side of the Basque country, who arrived in the province of Buenos Aires and settled near Chivilcoy. His wife was Marie Maniquena Echegoyen. Their son was registered on the 1st of November 1858 under a name the local Argentine registrar found easier to spell: Juan Duarte. It was not a translation. It was an erosion. The apostrophe vanished. The D became Du. The Basque was buried inside a Castilian shell. And the family, French-speaking, Basque-rooted, Catholic, frontier, continued without it. Juan Duarte's daughter, Eva, would never use the original name. There is no evidence she knew it. That is the first track. The documentary track. A name, a parish, a passenger record. Quiet evidence, accumulated slowly across 2 centuries. The genetic track is harder. Eva Perón's body has never been subjected to a public NA test. Her embalmed remains, after a journey through Italy and Spain that took more than 15 years, rest now in the Recoleta Cemetery in Buenos Aires, sealed behind reinforced steel. Direct sampling is not available. This is a legitimate challenge. It cannot be dismissed. Any honest investigation of her ancestry must acknowledge it directly. But genetic ancestry does not require the individual. It requires the population. In 2011, researchers publishing in PLOS One mapped the genetic admixture of Argentina region by region. In 2009, a separate consortium examined 78 ancestry informative markers across the Argentine population. The French Basque community on both sides of the Pyrenees has been one of the most genetically studied populations in Europe. Distinguished by an unusually high frequency of Y chromosome haplogroup R1b, particularly the subclade known as DF27, which appears in more than 70% of Basque men and is rare in surrounding Romance-speaking populations. The Manicena, Echegoyen, Hiribarand, and Duarte names that appear in Juan Duarte's lineage are not generic Iberian surnames. They are concentrated in the parish registers of the French Basque country to a degree that population geneticists describe as genealogically diagnostic. The names themselves carry signal. The records describe one ancestry. The population genetics describe the same one. This is where the two tracks meet. So, return to the name Duarte. The forward lock from the opening. The documentary track says François Duarte left the French Basque country in the mid-19th century. The genetic track says the population he came from carries a marker so distinctive it can be identified from a single haplotype. Neither line of evidence depends on the other. Neither team, the genealogist working in Pernes Atlantiques and the geneticists working in Buenos Aires, was looking for Eva Perón. Both arrived at the same boundary. The woman the world calls Argentine, the woman whose voice on a balcony in Buenos Aires became the sound of a nation, descended on her paternal side from a small, mountainous, fiercely distinct European people whose own language is not Indo-European, whose own genetic profile predates the Roman Empire, and whose own historians spent the 20th century arguing that they were not Spanish at all. There is one more detail in the record almost nobody has cited. The town where she was born, Los Toldos, was not founded by Europeans. In 1862, it was granted 12,400 hectares of it to the Mapuche cacique Ignacio Colicchio. The earth itself, the dust she grew up in, was indigenous land. She was a Basque-descended child born on Mapuche soil in a country built by erasing both. The pattern is not personal. It is national. There was a system, and it had a name. Between 1857 and 1940, more than 2 million Spanish-speaking and Basque-speaking immigrants arrived in Argentina. The state met them with a single instruction at the customs house, that their names be entered into the registry in a form the Castilian-trained clerk could pronounce. Apostrophes were dropped. Compound surnames were severed. Basque became Spanish on paper within a single afternoon. At the same moment, between 1878 and 1885, the Argentine military conducted what its own generals named the Conquest of the Desert, the campaign that displaced the Mapuche, the Tehuelche, and the Ronquil peoples from the southern Pampas, opened the land to European settlement, and rewrote the demographic map of the country. The Colicchio grant in Los Toldos was a fragile exception. By the 1970s, indigenous residents held only 35% of the land that had once been theirs. Eva Perón's family is not an unusual case. It is a textbook one. A French Basque surname becomes Duarte. A Mapuche town becomes a settler village. A child born outside marriage becomes a forged certificate. Argentine genealogists call this triple erasure, blanqueamiento administrativo, administrative whitening. It was not a conspiracy. It was a clerical practice. And it produced an entire nation that no longer remembers what it was before the registrar's pen. None of this diminishes her. The woman who built a foundation that delivered medicine to the poor of a continent, who pressed Juan Perón to extend the vote to Argentine women in 1947, who died at 33 of a cancer she refused to let stop her work, that woman built what she built. The bloodline beneath the name does not subtract from the labor of the hands, but it changes what we are looking at. The girl in the photograph at her first communion, in a white dress on the dust of Los Toldos, was the daughter of a man whose true surname was Duarte, the granddaughter of a Basque woman named Echegoyen, and a child of a town founded on land that had been promised to the Mapuche. She was, in a single body, 3 histories Argentina had agreed not to remember. When the original birth certificate vanished from the civil registry in 1945, it was not the truth of an illegitimate child that disappeared. It was the trail back to all of it. The mountain village in the Pyrenees, the cacique's grant on the Pampas, the names the registrar would not write. The certificate is gone. The names are still there, in a parish book in France, in a land record in Argentina, in a genetic frequency that does not forget. The silence has a shape now. It is shaped like a name nobody used.